Welcome back to Tactical Mortgage Talk, or T.M.T. This is episode 4. I am Tom Stearns, and sitting next to me, as always, is my co-anchor, Mr. Brad Stinson.
What up, Tom?
How we doing, my friend? So listen, Brad is a United States Marine Corps veteran. As most of you know, he is a huge veteran advocate, a VA home loan specialist, and a certified trainer through Military Mortgage Boot Camp. As most of you know, Brad and I started Tactical Mortgage Talk for our veterans, and it's about our veterans. This podcast isn't always intended to be about real estate or mortgages. Rather, it's to focus on our mission of helping our veterans, sharing those great stories about our veterans and helping nonprofits spread their word in a digital world. The bottom line is that Brad and my mission is to serve those who have served us. And if you know of any organization that needs help, please reach out to us. So today in studio, we have a huge guest. I'm super honored to have this man, Mr. Andrew Paul. Brad, I'm going to let you do the introductions. You know this guy much better than I do.
Roger that, man. Yes, and when we say huge, we're talking about personality-wise, right? Because this guy, I love you, man. No, Tom, thanks for the intro. I look forward to this podcast, and dude, you've been killing it this week, so keep up the good work. You had a fantastic closing yesterday with a veteran, and we'll tell that story eventually throughout this podcast, I'm sure. But without further ado, let's get to the man of the hour here. This is a great friend of mine, my mentor. I would not be where I'm at today without the help of him. So he is, and I'm going to embarrass him for a second. He's a Navy SEAL commander. He served with SEAL Team 3 Task Unit Bruiser. He served with many heroes, and we'll get to them here in a few minutes. But without further ado, Mr. Andrew Paul, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks for having me, guys. I love what you're doing here, and I think the message that you're putting out there to the community, to both the veteran community and those in various aspects and vocations who serve the veteran community is extremely important. This is what it means to be a leader in your community. What you guys are doing. So thanks for having me on. I'm excited to, talk about some topics, share experiences together, and with the ultimate goal being helping the veteran. Right. That's the goal here.
Exactly.
So, thanks for having me.
What you have always preached and what you taught me was the abundancy mindset, right? The abundant mindset, or iron sharpens iron, right? So
absolutely. Marshmallows do not sharpen iron.
What was that?
I said marshmallows do not sharpen iron.
They do not. Iron sharpens iron, and that's directly from you. So that's where this is kind of born.
That's directly from Proverbs.
Let's be clear, I know.
About 5,000 years ago.
Andrew, it's a huge honor for us to have you on our show, man. And I want to personally thank you. And, I thought one of the ways we could just kick off the show would be to give your insight as to the Veterans Home Front and what we're doing here at Benchmark and how we're really kind of kicking off our mission going forward.
Yeah. And I know before we did this, you had asked me to speak a little bit about my transition back to Benchmark and the Veterans Home Front. I had been with the organization for about 8 years or so, and took an opportunity with another organization to kind of help them get on their feet in serving veterans. And so I went over there for a little over a year or so, and after some careful consideration, I missed my home front and came back to Benchmark about a month ago. And I'm super excited to be back. I'll tell you, the first thing I noticed coming back to Benchmark was the culture and the family. It's an organization that is, to its core and from top to bottom throughout the entire organization, on fire for service. And anybody who's ever been successful in business or in life has found, of course, that one of the secrets is through service. You have to be able to set your ego aside, make it not about you. And when your heart is truly at that point, then you're about serving other people, everything else falls into place. And I know that coming back to Benchmark and the Veterans Home Front, that's what I see here, and that's what I'm excited to be back to be a part of.
It wasn't the mission statement. No more will a veteran be taken advantage of.
Well, the veteran will continue to be taken advantage of, but we're going to do everything we can to minimize and reduce how often that happens through education. And I think that, to your point on that, Brad, those of us who are in the industry, or whatever industry you're in, okay? I'm in San Diego, by the way, where historically, there's a used car salesman or used car lot right outside the front gate of every base,
Yes, there is.
and somebody who's selling a car with a special military deal interest rate of 29%,
Yes.
that will always exist. The way that we protect our veterans, and where I came up with the term several years ago about being a veteran advocate, is through education. And when people begin to understand, whatever business you're in, whether it's real estate, whether it's mortgage, whether it's selling cars, whether it's life insurance or financial advice or whatever it may be, when people are educated, they can make better decisions. And see, we are, relatively speaking, compared to a big box like Fortune 100 bank, right? We're not that big, right?
Right.
You take some of the largest banking institutions in the country that literally service millions of people. And let's just say their service typically isn't that great. They certainly don't have time to take the one-on-one attention to educate a veteran and help them make an informed decision. And at best, people get taken advantage of through systems or organizations like that through the lack of service. And at worst, there's other unscrupulous people out there who literally feed on veterans like wolves feed on sheep. And the reason that happens is because even though there's all these really great people out there in whatever industry you're in, again, I mean, I'm speaking from a mortgage perspective, and as are you guys in real estate, et cetera. Whatever industry you're in, there's always people out there who are going to feed on people, right? And the reason why they do that is because the consumer isn't aware of a viable alternative. And so that's the biggest challenge that I see in our industry is veterans who end up going to maybe a well-known named brand who doesn't do really a fantastic job at all.
No.
The ball gets dropped. They have a horrible experience, or worse, they get truly taken advantage of. And the reason is because they don't know about the good folks out there because we're just not big enough to be a common household name yet.
We're told that these are very veteran friendly places. I mean, it's what we've been told and it's what we know as veterans. So that's the first place we turn to.
And one of the things that I'd like to add or jump in there on would be what gets me excited. And Andrew, you and I spoke a little bit about this at the production trip. What gets me excited for Brad and myself and for our strategic alliances and partners as far as realtors and builders in our community is that it hasn't been as infiltrated in our marketplace here in Michigan as, say, where you're at.
Right.
And so the fear of loss, or in my opinion, of people not knowing what they don't know, leads an awesome opportunity for us to do it and do it right and make this mission even stand out that much more, because we are true mortgage professionals and we are deciding how we can integrate things into people's long, short-term financial plans so it's the best for them, and doing so for our veterans with the VA loan.
Right. So the VA home loan benefit, if you're just tuning in, is, I mean, by far, and take it, I mean, this is from an experienced professional opinion, the best loan product out there. There are certain circumstances where it may make sense to use a conventional loan, but that's very situational dependent. And in most, and I mean 99% of most veterans' situations, of the VA loan's the best option for them. But there's so much misinformation out there. It comes down to either real estate agents or other loan officers who just have not done a whole lot of business with the VA. And so they steer a veteran away from the program because they just don't know what the benefits are, or they give them wrong information about what the benefits of the program really is. Or, I mean, listen, I did a segment, you can go find this, Google it, it's on YouTube or whatever, discussing Dave Ramsey, for example. Dave Ramsey, household name. And let me just say, because this is like a lightning rod, by the way, I mean, I got lit up, okay? Dave Ramsey does a great job, okay? Just hear what I just said before you hear what I'm about to say. Dave Ramsey does a great job. Dave Ramsey has helped millions of people get on a solid financial foundation and to make great financial decisions when in the past they had not been. Dave Ramsey does a great job, okay? Dave Ramsey is not infallible, though. And in one particular area, which he continues to say over and over again, which I emphatically disagree with, he literally says that the VA home loan is the worst program out there.
It's the most expensive.
And and listen, I have this on multiple clips, not like once, he said
Yes.
it multiple times. And the problem that I have is, here's the point. The point is that real estate agents, loan officers who don't know the program really well, who steer veterans away from it, and even solid folks like Dave Ramsey, who really has done such a great job in most areas, putting that kind of message out there, makes people think, well, maybe I shouldn't use that loan, and they really don't realize what they're missing out on. And so that's why it's through education, we have got to rally the troops. We've got to get the people that work in our industry, real estate agents, other mortgage professionals, to team up with us to get the message, to find the veterans who could potentially benefit from this, and then help them make an informed decision. I'm not going to stand here and just say, just believe me. No, let's lay it all out there for you so that you can understand how it works yourself and make an informed decision from one product over the other.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
what's best for your family, right? Because I mean,
right.
You can lead a horse to water, you just can't make him drink. And that's a hard one. That's a hard, I mean, Tom, I don't mean to call you out on this, but you know, when we first started talking about this podcast, you're like, man, this veteran is really pulling at my heartstrings because I'm not doing him. He doesn't think I'm doing good enough for him or something along those lines. I'm like, look, bro, you're not going to be able to please everybody, right? You just got to make sure you give them enough information to make the best choice for them and their family.
Yeah. Well, you know, I agree with you wholeheartedly, Andrew, in the sense of education. And no matter how much you can educate someone, sometimes people just don't get it, you know, and no matter how much you want to tell them, here, I'm here to service you and help take your loan, which I believe without a doubt is the best loan product for you. Sometimes people just don't get it. And, you know, the best that we can do is to give them the best educated decision for them to make that decision, you know, I mean, and walk them down that path of, hey, this is the reason why this is the best product for you, period. You know, right. But the problem becomes when you have, and I'm by no means are throwing a realtor or a builder underneath the ground or under the wheels, so to speak. But when you have people in our marketplace that don't understand the product itself, it becomes that much more difficult to let that veteran know and help them understand this is why this is the best product for you.
Well, you know, and it's a great point, Tom. And the other, in addition to that, I would just say that not everybody is ready to buy a home either. But as long as we can educate them and they can make an informed decision, then they're playing with all the pieces of the puzzle. Just to give you some statistics in my marketplace in San Diego's got the highest concentration of veterans of anywhere in the country. Now, other areas rival that in terms of active duty service members like Virginia Beach and things like that. But in terms of both active duty, former, retired, etc., because many people who come to San Diego because it's so beautiful stay here. It's expensive, but many veterans stay here. There's also a lot of industry here that serves the military and DOD, and a lot of those people get off active duty and transition right into a government job. So there's a ton of veterans here in San Diego. Ton of people who are eligible to use the VA home loan benefit. So of course, there's lots of people who are doing VA loans here or come here to do VA loans. But in an area that has perhaps one of the highest concentration of veterans of anywhere in the country, watch this. San Diego market, according to the Sandicor MLS, last year did approximately 35,000 purchase transactions. 35,000. Of that 35,000, about 4,500 of them used VA financing. So of all the transactions, some could have been cash, some could have used conventional or FHA or USDA or other financing. 4,500 roughly used VA financing, which is about 12.5%. So in a marketplace that has some of the highest concentration of veterans of anywhere in the country, VA loan utilization represents about 12.5% of the market. Okay, follow me a little further on this. In my market, now it's different in other markets, okay, where loan amounts are smaller, loan officers tend to do more units, okay? In my market, I would tell you that a loan officer that's doing like 40 deals a year is a really good producer. And there's plenty of people who do more than that, but 40 is a lot in my market. 20 in my market any manager, team, branch, organization would be like solid. Love to have a 20 unit per year producer in my office.
Right.
So let's talk about a 20 unit per year producer. Let's say a 40 unit per year. That means that person, on average, if you just use the market statistics, is doing between 2 and 4 VA loans. We'll call it 3 VA transactions a year, and that's a really solid producer. They did about 3 VA loans last year, statistically. Now, I know those statistics is even generous because I'm like 90% VA, right? Because I'm a veteran. Everybody knows in the military, that's basically my niche and what I focus on. But so if there's specialists like me doing that kind of percentage, bottom line is the average guy, if they're a really good loan officer, did 3 VA deals last year, statistically speaking. Now,
yeah.
So, you've got some throat cancer. You're going to go and get some surgery. Going to go in for some heart bypass surgery. Going to go in for a little eye operation. Hey, doc, how many of these things you do last year?
Right.
3 of them? Okay. So what happens is that most real estate agents and consumers who have a bad experience with a VA home loan is because they're working with a loan officer who might actually be a really good loan officer, but still only did 3 of them last year.
Right.
Doing 3 of them last year does not make you an expert.
No.
Right.
So that is where I think the public face experience, when people are apprehensive, like, "Ooh, VA, I don't know about that," it's because the last experience they had was poor, and it's because probably the person that they were working with was not a specialist in that VA home loan. So
yeah.
Precisely. Can you repeat those market numbers from last year?
Yeah, so San Diego County, it's approximately 35,000 purchase transactions, of which about 4,500 used VA financing. So VA, utilization in San Diego County represents about 12.5% of the market, and that's a high figure. That's a high concentration of the veteran market. So now let's go to a market in the Midwest.
I have our numbers right here. So
yeah, go ahead. What do those look like?
Year to date right now, we have 29,633 total transactions. Of those total transactions, 1,361 are VA. So that equals a 4.5% market ratio. This month, November, 2,082 total transactions, 90 of which were VA. That equals 4.3%.
Right.
So, Tom, let me ask you, because you've been at this for a long time. How many years have you been in the business now, Tom?
21 years.
21 years in the business. Obviously doing your own business, leading, training, recruiting, running a branch in an organization. In your market, what do you consider a good producer? How many transactions do they do?
8 units a month would be a good producer.
8 units. So 96 deals a year.
Yeah.
About 100 deals a year. So
that would be a solid loan officer.
Okay, so again, 100, that's a solid loan officer, and that is a lot of units. But given those statistics, if you just take the statistical average of the VA utilization in your market, 4.5%, so they did about four VA deals last year.
Right.
Brother, let me just tell you, if you're listening to this right now, the VA loan is unlike other loan programs. Yes, we underwrite to income and we look at bank statements, but the guidelines for the program are totally different. Here's the key takeaway on this. Really good VA loan specialists know all the rules and all the guidelines in the 26-7.
Yep.
The expert knows the exceptions to the rules. Okay?
Right.
It's one thing to not know them. It's another thing to be like, okay, I get it. I know all the rules. The master knows the exception to the rules.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is what Brad and I have been continuously pushing out. Like when you look at Brad, and I'm sure, Brad, you share your statistics. Last month, as a branch, we did 6 VA purchase transactions, 3 which were mine, 2 other loan officers. This next month, going in December, we already have 4 contracts under contract VA transactions. So you look at that statistically within our marketplace, and look at who the experts, the
Yeah,
people
that's
that
phenomenal. You're doing in a month or two what most loan officers statistically are doing all year. Now,
Right.
let's speak to the opportunity right now, because we can't do all this ourselves. What I
Correct.
want to also articulate on this is, if you're a real estate agent, if you're a new home builder, there is an opportunity to help veterans here, because they are often the most underserved consumer in your marketplace. And what happens is they walk into a new home builder's office, they get a hold of a real estate agent who doesn't know what they're doing, and they say, yeah, I'm a veteran, I was thinking about using my VA home loan. And the reaction is ooh, back on the heels. And so now maybe that person doesn't realize how much they can actually afford. Maybe they lose out on a housing opportunity. Maybe there is potential veterans who would love to own a home. They'd love to buy one of your new homes that you're building right now. And they just think that, my credit isn't good enough. I don't have the money for the down payment. And they're being underserved or not served at all.
That is
Right.
only if they say that they're a veteran. How many veterans do we know that do not come out and say that?
Yeah.
Right.
So here's the call to action, so to speak.
Exactly.
To, not be too whatever, but like, if you're a real estate agent or you're a builder, a new home builder, you've got to partner up with somebody who is truly a VA home loan expert, specialist, whichever word you prefer there, and team up. There's such an opportunity to serve this veteran community that's going to be mutually beneficial, right? Zig Ziglar says you can have everything you want in the world as long as you help enough people get what you want. You can have everything you want as long as you help everybody else get what they want. You can find veterans who need housing, don't know that they can afford it, and potentially buy the homes that you've got to sell.
Yeah. In our last podcast, Brad and I put out 3 major nuggets that all of our referral partners, builders, realtors should be using. And one of the biggest ones, period, was, and we talked and told some success stories with one of the agents I'm currently teamed up with right now, is that how many times when that person, that borrower walks into that open house, that new build, do they say, hey, this is 4-bedroom house, so on and so forth. But before they move on, ask, have you or your husband served our country? That
Right.
has been such a game changer for this one particular agent. We picked up 3 new veteran borrowers in one open house that only lasted an hour last Sunday.
That's awesome. It's all about asking the right questions. And, the tough part, I will just tell you, from my perspective personally, I've been at this 11 years since I left active duty. The tough part is, so when I left active duty, I won't go into like my whole transition story, which is a disaster when I left the service and
It's
came
such
in.
a great story, though.
We don't have time for that today, but maybe another time. But the thing is I got into mortgages, right? And I was like, mortgages, like what? But where I found my purpose and passion in my daily vocation of work, I found it in serving my fellow veterans. I certainly got sick and tired once I became aware of it. My eyes were open to it. I got sick and tired of seeing and hearing of my fellow veterans being taken advantage of. And I said, you had better watch out. If you take advantage or try to screw over one of my vets, I am coming after you. And then all of a sudden I had this new fire inside of me. This is years ago, right? Like, first of all, I'm bummed. I'm not in the service anymore. I miss my bros. I miss everything that stood for and what I fought to do for so long.
You were a Navy SEAL going into 30-year fixed mortgages. Come on.
Right. How do you go? That's why I often use the joke about is how do you go from jumping out of planes, playing with really cool explosives and making things go boom, diving rebreather, Drager rigs underwater, tip of the spear type stuff to 30-year fixed mortgage. How do you get excited about that?
Yeah.
You can't get excited. Whatever your vocation is, whether it's real estate, whether it's financial services, it's hard to get excited unless you just have a particular knack for geeking out on the numbers or something about the business of it. For me, I get excited when my heart is behind the person that I'm serving. And I know that's what Tom and Brad, I know that, and that's why we're doing this. I know that's who you guys are. That's why I'm putting my name to this podcast with you guys. That's why I'm on this with you. I wouldn't do this if I didn't know that your hearts were in that right place. So when you start to do that, first of all, it becomes infectious and you find a purpose in serving other people. And that's what it's all about, right? The rest falls into place. Do the right thing, work hard, the rest falls into place, you know?
Exactly. And it's just your why statement. Why are you doing what you're doing? And that's one of the things that you have helped me understand, because I was afraid of pimping out my time in service.
Sure.
Right. So I'm not going to use that to make a dime. Well, I'm not making a dime. I am making dimes, but it's about serving my fellow veterans. Right.
Here's the thing.
It helps me.
Let me ask you an easy question, Brad. This is a softball question.
Ready.
I really hope you don't miss this thing.
Well,
I don't think you will. Brad, do you believe that you are good at what you do?
Yes.
Do you believe that if somebody comes to you, that you are going to take great care of them?
Absolutely. I believe that there's nobody that will take better care of them than me.
And I've struggled with this for years. So if you keep your mouth shut, if you don't get the word out, if you don't ask the right questions of the people that you come across, it's a missed opportunity. An opportunity to serve, because that person goes down the street or they call the phone number on the advertisement from the person who's all too ready to take advantage of this
That's
person.
in their mailbox every other day.
That's right. They go down the street and you miss an opportunity to serve those people. Tom, it's the same thing I'll say to you. You know, I will just tell you, and you tell me what your thoughts are on this. We can just rap about it. I mean, that's what this is. I know that sometimes people who are not veterans feel like, well, I wasn't a veteran, so I don't know that, you know, if I have a place in helping them and doing VA loans. I mean, has that thought ever crossed your mind?
Oh yeah, so, and we've talked about this on some of our other podcasts, but it was something that I struggled with, hands down, because I wasn't a veteran and I didn't know what I didn't know. Now, you know, I've done VA loans my entire career, you know, one, none, some, one, you know, probably the average, like we said, 4 or 5, maybe 6 a year, because we do more units in Michigan. But, you know, for me and my why was the challenge that Stuart Hunter, obviously the owner of our company, gave to me. And when I came off that plane from Dallas, Texas, and saw a triple amputee that was in a wheelchair, it was the first time, Andrew, I remember going up to a veteran and saying, "Thank you for your service." And I stuck my hand out. He gave me like a fist bump, and he said, "Brother, it was my honor."
Nub bump.
Yeah. He said it was my honor, and I would do it over and over again. And it numbed me. And right there and then I knew, and it has been such a rewarding mission for me since that going forward. And every opportunity I get to thank a veteran or first responder for their service, I do. And like you said, it became passion. It's of a 21-year career. It's relit my passion for what I do. And I'm all in.
So I want to dial in on a little nuance here. In the story that you just told, I picked up on something, I think, and I just want to highlight this, because if you're listening right now and you kind of go through that, and if you're not hearing this the right way, I know you might miss Tom's heart. And as I've gotten to spend more time with you, Tom, I know where your heart's at. That's why I'm on this thing with you right now.
Right.
It's when you said, hey, that, you know, it was the first time I went up and said, "Thank you for your service." It's not because Tom's a douchebag and never wanted to thank a veteran for his service. There's a lot of people out there who walk around with a certain amount of guilt that they never served.
Yes.
And I just got to tell you, man, it takes all kinds of people in this world. I deal with this even within the service, right? I got guys who are like, well, you know, you were a Navy SEAL.
Hogs and grunts.
Like, bro, I mean, that's bullshit. I mean, so first of all, it's bullshit from anybody in the service who has served to ever deflate your service. Thank you for your service. I feel bad, frankly, that as a Navy SEAL, I am sometimes put up on this pedestal, and I served like anybody else, and they deserve the same thanks and recognition. So I deal with that. I see that within the service, and then with those who didn't serve at all, like you, Tom, there's people who are like, they feel bad that they never served. And look, dude, life takes us in all kinds of different directions. But here's the thing: if you're a real estate agent, if you're an investment advisor, stockbroker, insurance salesman, and you never served, here's the deal. Veterans need expert advice from somebody that they can truly trust. They need you, Tom. And anybody else who has ever felt like that. Now, Tom, you're over that now. I know you are.
Yeah.
But I know that's why when you said a few moments ago, it was the first time I ever went up and said, thank you for your service. I know it's because you felt awkward because you didn't know what to say and you felt bad, like I didn't serve. And so, well, how do I even say this to this guy? Here's the deal. That veteran needs an expert who's got 21 years of mortgage experience. Who's he going to turn to? The dude in the call center who was working at Starbucks last week?
Unfortunately,
that's the guy who's getting mortgage advice from?
Right.
No, dude. He needs Tom Stearns, 21 years. He needs to be able to trust a fellow veteran like a Brad Stinson. So anyway, I'm just taking your story there, Tom, and saying, like, if you're listening to this podcast right now and you're a real estate agent, you're a home builder, you're a financial advisor, and you're a pro at what you do, if you believe that. If you don't, go get more training. But if you're a pro at what you do and you truly believe that the service that you have to offer because you know what you're doing would benefit somebody, you've got to make that connection. And that's what you're doing now, Tom. I'm so proud of you, man. It's awesome.
Oh, I appreciate it, man.
So
I appreciate it. And take that to one more level. I mean, even if those folks don't have the education, that's why it's so huge to team, because everything we talk about, everything that you folks have done in the military, everything was a team, right? And so here we are. Here we're your first line of defense. We're your team. Come to us. Let us help you walk down that yellow brick road, right?
That's right.
We'll lead the way.
Hey, let me ask you another thing. How many times has whether it be a veteran or a non-veteran, I mean, I'm going to tell I'm asking you this because you've been doing it a long time. So how many times has somebody come to you and or has anybody ever come to you and you've gone through their financial situation with them, you've looked at the pre-approval, you've looked at their credit, what their income and assets look like, maybe what they're going through, and you kind of say to them, you know, man, this just isn't the time for you to buy right now. Has that ever happened?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It happened earlier this week because I put people in loans so that they can keep them, so they can keep their house.
Right.
I'm not that guy that's going to put somebody in a loan so I can get a check.
Right.
I'm the guy that structures something that will go into their long short-term goals so that they can live, grow a family, come back to me again. And in doing them right, my whole heart believes that in me doing them right, they're going to refer their mother, brother, and sister because of the service, expertise, and just overall ease of how the transaction went. That doesn't mean that person, like for instance, this week, that I don't put on a 3, 6, 12-month plan of where we can be how we can get there. Now, she could walk down the road and go somewhere else. But for me, knowing in my heart, I know that what I'm doing is right for that person.
So there's two sides to this coin. On the one hand, I've lost count. I mean, I could not even tell you how many VA loans I've saved. Somebody who is like, I want to buy this house, and X mutual company says, I can't qualify, or they can only approve me for a $200,000 house, and I really want this one. It's $225,000, and I look at it, I'm like, dude, you're more than qualified for this house. And that little thing over here on your credit report where they said, oh, sorry, you can't get the loan, that's actually not a big deal. The VA has no problem with that. You're approved. Here, go buy the house. I've lost count over the years how many times that's happened, because you take the time to either really understand what's going on in that person's financial situation and, bounce that off of what truly the guidelines are and what the exceptions to the guidelines are in those circumstances, and knowing those so well. So on the one hand, I've lost track of how many of those people I've helped. And on the other hand, there's just been that time. And it isn't a lot. I mean, sometimes it's just, hey, person just doesn't qualify, period. Like, then there's some other times, though, when it's like, with everything I know about the exceptions and what could be done, and I could probably push this through. I could probably get this done. But here's the thing. The real advice that I have for you right now, as a veteran to another veteran, or somebody who knows lending and finances so well, the best advice I've got for you right now is, let's wait 6 months. Let's work on paying this off. Let's get this debt under control, so that when we do close your loan in 6 months, you're keeping that house. You're moving your family into that home, and you're not sweating the payments every month and creating so much stress that it starts to affect your marital life and create kinds of discord within the family. That's the difference between somebody who's collecting a paycheck and somebody who is building a business through serving. So
Yep.
I know that, again, I'm back at Benchmark because that's who we are as a company. And I'm on this podcast with you guys because I would never put my name to somebody who I did not believe truly in my heart would make that decision every single day. So I just want to say thanks. I know that's where your heart is at, and I think that's an important distinction.
I've told you my philosophy numerous times on why I do what I do on a daily basis is because I do not want to come home and find you hiding in one dark corner of my house with your shoestring waiting to attack.
Because you screwed over somebody. Yeah, and you know what? You'll never see it coming, but I have no plans to do it because I know, bro.
I know. I'm just
I know who you are. I also think, by the way, that just because somebody's a veteran and might be in any kind of a business doesn't mean they're necessarily a good person. I see plenty of people who are veterans who take advantage of other veterans. So, on the one hand, for me personally, because I'm a veteran, I'm so passionate about serving my fellow veterans. But at the same time, not everybody's wired like that. And just because somebody's a veteran doesn't mean you just can automatically trust them.
There's always that 10%.
Yeah.
There's 10% of every demographic. Now, for the most part, veterans are very thankful, appreciative. They have a new outlook on life, but you have that 10%.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So Brad, speak to your, I saw this, but Brad, when did you get off active duty again?
2008.
Okay. And when was your last active duty deployment? Was that in 2007?
Yes, 2007.
To Iraq, right?
Yep. TQ. We were stationed in TQ there.
Yep.
Al Taqaddum, I believe.
Yeah, Al Taqaddum, bro. And you were firing off the big rounds, right? Like the Howitzers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Reach out and touch somebody, man.
Bro, that stuff is great stuff. We didn't have a ton of occasion to call that type of stuff in when I was in. I mean, that's a big round to call in. And in Iraq, those of you who were there at the time, where I was at most of the time, we were in the cities and stuff like that. And so if you don't, and this is a way side story, by the way, but just so you guys understand kind of like what happens, like when we do call for fire missions, there's, when an airplane comes in and drops a bomb, they're like, here's the target, if you can see my hand here, and they're dropping it, they're airplanes flying at 500 miles an hour or something like that. They drop this bomb, and that thing's now moving as well in the same direction that the airplane was when it released that thing. And if they're off left to right or high low just an inch, that round can go high or low. What we call the basket is the error around the intended target that thing can hit. So we're very concerned about collateral damage. So anyway, all that to say,
yes.
I didn't have a ton of opportunity to call in the Howitzers because the angle that those Howitzers come in from, because they come in from so long of a way, the error basket can be very large. But those of you who have used them and called them in, bro, you guys bring them in and you bring them in close.
King of battle.
Bro, amazing. Yeah.
No, there was very little use of Howitzers. I mean, we shot maybe 3 fire missions throughout the 2 deployments I was there. But my last deployment, we actually redeployed as a security element rather than a artillery battery.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So we kind of took it was misfits from Camp Horno and Las Pogas where we were at, and we kind of meshed together this hodgepodge unit, deployed over as a security element, and I actually left country early, so I left my boys in country and came home, similar to you. So that was where the transition became difficult because I didn't have anybody to lean on. They were like, I left halfway through that deployment, and they were still over there. So I mean,
right.
If I did talk to them, it was through email, and as well as I do back then that it wasn't like it is now. So those messages would take a day or longer to get there if they even came.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Did you ever know about your VA home loan benefit when you were on active duty?
Rule number 1 when dealing with all veterans, never assume that we know our benefits. Because, I knew something of it, right? Because you went through TAPS class as well. TAMPS is a class taught by the VA. Well, at the time, it was taught by the VA.
You talking about TAPS, like when you're getting out?
TAMPS, yeah.
I'm
TAPS
talking about when you're in, bro. Did you know? I mean, right? There's like no in. Like you didn't know anything, right?
No, I didn't. I wasn't married. I lived in the barracks. So, I mean, that's what I knew. I mean, I knew that you got BAH and there's an opportunity to live off base if you were married and or a staff sergeant or higher. That was pretty much all I knew. So, I mean, we weren't taught it, but it was one of the, I don't know what the Navy does to recruit you, but the Marine Corps uses these like POGs, and they're like these tags, benefit tags is what they're called.
Okay.
So they ask you what your goals are in the future. And, you know, obviously if you're sitting in the recruiter's office, I don't know. I want to get out of here. That's my goal. Right. So they're asking you all these questions. They slide these benefit tags, and one of them is own a home, you know, but they briefly talk about it, like very, very briefly, because they too are uneducated about it.
Right.
And when you go in, that's the last thing you think about.
Oh yeah. And this is the other key point. This is speaking from my own personal experience. Brad, I'm sure you can echo this. And Tom, I mean, by now I'm sure you've heard these types of stories, but again, to anybody else listening to this, I mean, I think you can appreciate the idea that most veterans are not walking around thinking about this every day. I mean, they don't even know. I mean, we're into it because we're into this business, right? But they're not. They're focused on the mission. They're focused on the training and the logistics of what they got to do and handling their home life while they're away and balancing all these things out. So the challenge to both of you, to me, and anybody else who's involved in this, keep in mind, our military men and women, we want them. And you know, actually, do you know who put this thought in my head? It was actually my father. When I was on my last deployment, I was in the process of dealing with something on the house. I was coming up short with some money or something. And I kind of out of the blue, my dad just kind of stepped in with like $20,000 and helped my wife and I out. And awesome, he was Dad. Like, hey, he had the money, he was able to do it. But this is what he said. I realized now this is where this thought came from. It's from my dad. He says, listen, son, I don't want you thinking and worrying about this while you're overseas, having to maneuver and fight. And like, these are not the things that should be on your mind when you're having to worry about the enemy, you know, attacking, counterattacking, ambushing, whatever. Now, he didn't use those words in no military things, right? But he knew conceptually, he didn't want my mind to be divided and pulled over with that thing. Realize that when you're helping a veteran, especially an active duty service member, I find such a high calling in the idea that, you know what me and my team are going to do? We're going to make this so seamless that they don't have to worry about anything.
Yep.
You focus on serving and the job that you got to do. And when you're in a high risk situation, I don't want for a second a thought to enter into your mind that distracts you from the job and the mission at hand. Because you know why? I got this. I got this covered for you. We as a team, whether it's us three here, whether it's a real estate agent that I'm working with, whether it's a builder, don't you worry. We got this covered for you. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely,
love it, brother.
I mean, you know, Brad and I talked about this yesterday. You know, we usually trying to share a couple success stories. Yesterday was just that for me. I had a Marine called up on Title 10. He's already gone. Young wife, 26 years old, 5 kids.
Wow.
5 kids. And, you
know. Really loves his wife or just has no cable TV?
Or maybe all the above.
Yeah. Or you got TRICARE as an insurance.
But what a great family. What a great man. Literally up until 2 weeks ago, I could only get a hold of him via text. And then in the last 2 weeks here, we haven't been able to get a hold of him at all.
Yeah.
But was there at the closing for his wife, myself, obviously the real estate agent. And it was an amazing honor to help this. And it was one that it blew up with one of our bigger lenders out there, and we picked it up and Bearhugged it and took it to the table, and it was a huge success.
Let me weave in with you on that comment on these bigger lenders, and I want to avoid naming names and whatever. I think we all kind of know if you're in the military, like, you know, there's some large organizations. I want to, as a veteran and who's a guy who's a member of a couple of these large credit union organizations, okay, I want to be a little bit careful, and I want you guys to know, and I want anybody else who's listening to know where my heart is on this. I actually think those companies, for the most part, really do a great job. They are serving veterans and active duty service members in ways that most banks cannot. But when it comes to buying a home, there are so many moving parts, and they are so big as an organization. It's just like, if you can imagine that things are just zipping down this assembly line. And I mean, almost imagine that image, if you will. I've seen pictures of it, like the boxes being shipped out of the Amazon factory. Like you see, just see these boxes, right? And every one of those boxes is a veteran. And there's people on there, but the difference here is that some of these boxes, they jam up, they fall off the line, and one falls off the line, or several fall off the line and underneath the conveyor belt, and everybody's so busy, nobody looks and realizes, oh, that one fell off. I need to bend over and pick that one up and put it back on again. And they're just zipping through. And that's not to say that the loans are closing fast. I just mean there's just such a sheer volume of people that they work with. They don't have the capacity to deliver personalized, expert level service. It's just a machine. Okay.
Yep.
And if you're buying a car and you're getting auto insurance, there's really not a whole lot of moving parts to that. If you just need to write checks and swipe your credit card, like there's nothing to that. Okay. But with a home loan, you have a buyer, you have a seller, you have an inspector, an appraisal, you've got values, you've got underwriting, and everybody's personal financial situation is unique. And everybody's got a story or a circumstance. And it takes somebody many times, not all the time, but many times, it takes a pro who can sit down, really understand what that financial circumstance is and how to apply the rules or the exceptions to the rules to get this person the home that they truly deserve. So that's the difference. I just want to be clear, because I think that a couple of these very large organizations really, for the most part, do a great job, and they are dedicated to serving veterans. But when it comes to the home loan, they really kind of fall short of where in other areas they excel. And that's where we tend to step in as specialists, that personal attention to make that difference, you know?
Yeah. In this case, the box definitely derailed off the conveyor belt, and Benchmark was there to pick it up and never quit. And Brad, one of the things that you say that I think always makes me laugh, but it's so true, is like, do you want to go to war? What's you're saying? Do you want to go to war with a boot, or do you want to go to war with a specialist like Andrew Paul?
Yeah. Do you want to go to war with boots or non-deployed, non-previously deployed troops? Or do you want to go to war with the special forces?
Mm-hmm.
It's
a great analogy.
You want to go to war with special forces. I mean, shit. Right. All I need is one Andrew Paul, and we're going to take out a whole city block, right? So, two.
I'll take it. Sure, sounds good. I had a good team. I had a really good team.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, here at the Veterans Home Front, we have created an elite VA home loan specialist team.
But gentlemen, what I want to talk about is how we can really get involved at the community level in Michigan.
Absolutely.
So I know we have both spoken about doing a couple of events. So I don't know if we can start getting some dates penciled out. And I would love to help. I'd love to be involved. I think we got to bring in a few of the right people and plan a series of events that are, the first couple maybe grand in scale, and then that go to something that's sustainable and repeatable.
Yes.
And I think it needs to be in two directions. I think one is real estate and home builders who may not realize the opportunities that they're missing out on to serve veterans and to offer the services that they have. And then also directly to the veterans in the community who may not even be aware of the opportunity to work with professionals like the two of you. The problem that I've seen in the past is if you're quiet, sometimes when you're really humble, you don't advertise because you feel bad about speaking about yourself.
Correct.
But if you don't speak up, people don't know about you. They go down the street, they get taken advantage of. And a guy down the street, I'm just telling you, dude, there's no way. There's just no way that a guy goes, a Marine Corps veteran, for example, that talks to Brad Stinson is going to have anybody who would love on him more. Especially you two guys get talking. So, I was artillery unit. I was over in Afghanistan. Oh, we must have crossed paths, and I flew through Takata. Whatever. Like, the brotherhood, man.
Yes.
Great opportunity, Brad, for you to connect with veterans who need somebody to trust. Tom, you two guys teaming up with, 21 years of experience there, and the reach and resources that you have in that community. There's just so much good that we can do together there. So, I'd like to look at doing a few events towards real estate agents and builders that we could potentially team up with, and then doing a couple consumer direct educational type events for the community.
But fun events too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So like the realtor builder events, you're talking like, for lack of better words, a boot camp class, 3-hour CE boot camp class. And then the direct to veteran event would be educational piece on eligibility, home, purpose, and so on and so forth, but then do something fun after.
Yeah. Sure. And we just touched base on it, and we won't put all the, but let the cat out of the bag. But we had talked, Andrew and I did, about here in Grand Haven along the lakeshore, as most people that live along the lakeshore know, that we are Coast Guard City, USA. Period.
Right. Yep.
We are Coast Guard City, USA. And literally this town shuts down for 2 weeks, and that would be an awesome opportunity that we've talked about coming in and doing something on a community level to honor and serve those and
absolutely
and get you to come in.
Absolutely. So, I'm all for
it. I know that this is, man, it's just been awesome to have you on here. A huge honor, Andrew. I can't thank you enough for your time. That being said, we can bring this to a wrap. This is T.M.T, or Tactical Mortgage Talk. I'm Tom Stearns. This is Brad Stinson. It was our honor to have Andrew Paul, SEAL Team 3 guest on our podcast today. You guys can follow us at Tactical Mortgage Talk or #TMT. We look forward to our next episode. Brad, thank you as always, my friend.
Well, thank you, Tom, and keep advocating, keep pushing for our veterans, because you're doing a fantastic job and you're killing it, bro. So keep it up. AP, my brother.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. Let's do this again, and let's talk about putting this some action steps in here to get into the community and help some folks that really need it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, buddy.
All right.
All right.
Bye.